Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Formbook, looking ahead to a fascinating weekend of action across Ascot and York. Brief 10-minute look at the two feature races, the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Stakes at Ascot, and the feature at York, which of course is the York Stakes. Stay tuned for all of this. Yes, welcome back and thanks very much for your company once again as we look ahead to the two feature races this weekend as part of the World Pool calendar as well. Remember, if you bet with the world, you're betting into 26 different betting jurisdictions, all betting into one commingled pool, which essentially means better value and liquidity for punters. We had a good Royal Ascot. We notified a couple of winners there and looking forward to Goodwood next week. We'll also be back with a show pinpointing some horses to watch there. But for now, here's your five runners in Saturday King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Stakes, 4:10 p.m. the off time at Ascot. Watch it on ITV or at the races. Calandigan, Continuous, Jan Bruegel, Rebels Romance, and Kalpana. 13-8 is Calandigan. 7-4 Jan Bruegel. 4-1 for Kalpana. Rebels Romance at 5-1, and Continuous is your 150-1 Ruffy. So let's have a look at firstly the key piece of form. Coronation Cup between Jan Bruegel and Calandigan. Continuous also, of course, in this contest. But just take a look at the first two for the minute. Jan Bruegel takes the lead here. Continuous has done enough in front. And then here comes, on the outside, Calandigan. And they have this tussle in the closing stages. I think Calandigan's got every right to go past here, but he doesn't. Jan Bruegel's very gritty and determined. I don't think he was at home on the track. That's for sure, Calandigan. But at the same time, Jan Bruegel continued to pull out just that little bit more. Definitely be suited, Calandigan, by the return to Ascot. He's already won the King Edward VII there. He should have won the Champion Stakes last year. He was unlucky, had to use too much petrol, then got caught on the rail. Nothing went right for him on that occasion. So you would have to argue that the return to Ascot's going to be strongly in his favour. But he's yet to win a Group 1. And for me, that remains a bit of a concern if I was backing him. I'd like to have seen him got his head in front of the top level already. He hasn't. He had every chance there at Epsom, didn't go through with it. Whilst the track wasn't to his liking, I don't think it was Jan Bruegel's massive cup of tea either, but he just knuckled down when it mattered. So that's a look at the key piece of evidence between the top two in the betting. In terms of the other horses in the race, though, let's start with the other horse who's towards the top at 4-1. That's Kalpana. She's finishing second to Whirl in the Pretty Polly last time out. She's yet to win in 2 starts so far this season, of course. She was third on her reappearance. That came at the Curragh as well to Los Angeles in the Tattersalls Gold Cup. But like Calandigan, she has that winning form, of course, at Ascot when winning the Kipco Champions British Fillies and Mares. Put firmly in her place here, though. Of course, this was over 1 mile 2. Stepping back up to 1 mile 4 is obviously going to be a big help. She's already won over that trip at Kempton as well in the past. And probably a slightly softer surface might help as well. But she's still got to show, though, that she's the same filly she was last year. She's suffered 2 reversals already this season, albeit both have come in Group 1 company. I'd just like to see a little bit more from her compared to what I've seen. She does get that £3 allowance, being the mare in the race, but there's still a couple of concerns for me if I was a Kalpana backer. But 4-1, she does make some appeal if you're looking for one to take on the 2 at the top of the betting from a value perspective. Although you could argue the other horse who probably is a stonking bet, if you like, taking on the top 2 is Rebels Romance, because you know about him. He's an international globetrotter, but he's danced every dance. Here he is winning the Yorkshire Cup earlier on this season. This was a good performance, seeing us Epic Poet stepped up in trip. And then he backed that up by seeing off Al Riffer when landing the Hardwick last time out. Now, Al Riffer's already backed up that form by winning earlier on this week, actually, at the Curragh Cup. So that was a good performance. Looks like a stare on the improve. Argument, of course, with Rebels Romance is his top level absolutely at Group 1? He's got plenty around the world, but taking on some crack Group 1 horses here in Britain, that would arguably be the concern. Of course, he comes into this having finished third in the race last year when won by Goliath, held every chance, got a bit tired in the closing stages. They've taken a similar sort of prep to last year, albeit they have also taken in Royal Ascot. So just interested to see how he gets on. I think he's probably not at his absolute best when the it's sort of good to soft ground, but I still think he's an interesting contender despite now being a 7-year-old Rebels Romance. He might just not have the legs of some of his rivals, but there's no doubting his ability. And then just briefly, let's have a look at the horse who's going to lead. This is Continuous's last win. He is, of course, a St. Leger winner. This is in the 2024 Royal Whip. He's got no chance, you'd have to say. He'll be there for the pace angle, but it'll also help out Jan Bruegel by being that pace angle. So maybe if he's able to go hard in front, a bit like he did in the Coronation Cup, he is going to set it up for his stable companion. So that's a look at all of them. In terms of the betting, we've already seen that the 13-to-8 favourite is Calandagan. At the prices, I'm going to be with Jan Bruegel. I just think he beat him fair and square at Ascot. Of course, Calandagan going back to Ascot. Similar comments also apply to Kalpana, is going to help both of them. But I thought that was a solid enough performance. He was really, really high in his head carriage on his first start of the season, Jan Bruegel. But previously to that, he'd won his first 4, including the St. Leger. And it was back to it at the Coronation Cup. I like the way he knuckled down in the closing stages. Stamina's his forte. Nice gap between Epsom and here. And hopefully Jan Bruegel can deliver again. But it's a fascinating run all of that contest. 4-1 for Kalpana. You could argue she makes plenty of value appeal. And maybe even Rebels Romance if you think he can turn back the clock and beat the 4-year-olds in this contest in Calandagan, Jan Bruegel and Kalpana. Jan Bruegel comes out on top on the official ratings, only by £1, ahead of Calandagan at 125. And then you've got Rebels Romance at 123, Kalpana at 117, and Continuous at 110. Small but select field, but all 5 are fascinating contenders in that event. Other race we're going to preview is the York Stakes. Just give you a brief look at who's running in that. Almakam, Certain Nag, Ekeroy's Secret, Royal Champion, Bay City Roller, Green Impact, and Stanhope Gardens. Now, let's take them with the feature horse in this first, really. Have a look at at the betting as well, very quickly. 10-11 Fab is Almakam. 7-2 is Stanhope Gardens. Bay City Roller at 6s. Green Impact 8-1. Royal Champion at 16s. And 20-1 for Certain Lad and Ekeroy's Secret. Well, Almakam's the horse they've all got to beat in this contest and comes into this on the back of his very, very good win in the Brigadier Gerard last time out. Seeing off on that occasion in good style as well. Subsequent Prince of Wales' stakes hero. Ombudsman, they pulled well clear on that occasion, and you'd have to think that there will be more to come from Almakam in this contest. Let's have a look at that Brigadier Gerard. Here are the top 2, Ombudsman and Almakam as they go on. Almakam just found plenty more. You thought at this stage Ombudsman was coming on the outside with this run and was maybe going to get the better of Almakam, but you have to be impressed with the way that this horse just knuckled down to the task well and kept pulling out more under pressure. That's what sort of came to mind for me. And I think there's stacks more to come based on this effort. Obviously, Ombudsman's done big favour for the form, winning the Prince of Wales' stakes, and then back at Sandown, he was narrowly denied by Delacroix in the Coral Eclipse. But Almakam just looks like he's really at the top of his game now. He's getting the hang of things. He's sort of ground versatile from sort of good to soft, and that'll help him with an autumn campaign ahead of him. And it looks like this 1 mile 2 trip is his optimum. So I think he will take plenty of stopping for Ed Walker in this contest. Next in terms of the betting is another horse who's interesting in the shape of the Stanhope Gardens, who comes into this on the back of his 5th in the Derby. Let's have a look at that. Lambourne, of course, winning on this occasion. Stanhope Gardens towards the middle of your screen here, just wandering about a bit on the camber at this stage. You have to say that was a pleasing enough run for a horse who came into that, having warmed up for it in a Salisbury sort of novice event on his seasonal return. Stayed on strongly enough. Plenty more to come, you'd have to argue. He is the 3-year-old, and that also means, of course, that he's in receipt of plenty of weight, along with Bay City Roller. He'll have to improve again. I think he'll probably be suited by ground conditions as well. So Stanhope Gardens is probably the main danger. Ahead of Bay City Roller, who we've just mentioned there. Second in the Heron Stakes to Opera Ballo last time out. Also, on his previous start, and then was second at Saint-Cloud last time out in the Eugene Adams to Darius, but ran well, headed in the closing stages, keeping on at the same pace. But it's clearly a horse who's improving. That was the first start as well at Saint-Cloud, stepped up to 10 furlongs. There is more improvement to come over this trip, but I just think on bare form, Bay City Roller is going to have to improve again. In terms of the other horses in the lineup, let's just have another brief look at them again. Green Impact is another one I wanted to have a look at for Shane Foley and Jesse Harrington. Let's have a look at this performance when scoring at Leopardstown. This came earlier on this season. Did it nicely, was probably entitled to on this occasion as well in a listed contest, and then was 6th to Lambourne in the Irish Derby. Only beaten 3 3/4 lengths on that occasion, but never really got involved. Was pretty disappointing. Maybe just didn't quite stay, and the drop back in trip is going to help here. This came over 1 mile 1. 1 mile 2 should be well within the compass. So Green Impact, I think, at a value play at around 8 to 1 might just be the each way one to be with in this contest. The other 3 to mention, Royal Champion, along with Equerry Secret and Certain Lad. Just a brief word on all of them. Royal Champion's of 115. He's the second highest rated horse in this, but is a 7-year-old, was well beaten by Ombudsman in the Prince of Wales's, and then was 4th to Al-Azi earlier on this term as well in the Gordon Richards. Has 2 wins on the all-weather at Lingfield and Southwell on the resume, but maybe just isn't the horse that he was Royal Champion. Certain Lad is, of course, a distance winner, but again, similar comments apply. He's a 9-year-old, and he'll probably need the career best here. He did win at Longchamp earlier last season on soft ground. And Equerry Secret, interesting in terms of a good winner at Epsom on the debut for the yard, powering clear in good style, but then was well beaten in a listed contest at Royal Ascot. So you think there's going to have to be a bit of improvement to come from Equerry Secret. So in conclusion, I think Almacam's going to be pretty tough to beat there, and is the nap of the day on Saturday. And the final horse I just want to mention is in a sprint earlier on the card at 2 p.m. That's Jubilee Walk. Here's the victory last year. Haven't seen this horse really fire since, but sort of hinted at a maybe return to form when 3rd at Chester, having had a gelding operation and wind surgery for James Ferguson. Study a man gelding. I just thought now, dropping back to a mark of 92 again, there could be scope for a bit more improvement from Jubilee Walk, and has a win on the resume already over 5 furlongs at York. This is over 6 furlongs, this contest. It's the 2 o'clock. It's the dash handicap on Saturday. But I just thought at 7 to 1, Jubilee Walk made a little bit of a pill. So there you go, a brief whistle-stop tour looking at all the action on Saturday in terms of the highlights. Jan Bruegel versus Calandegam versus Kalpana versus Rebel Romance in the feature at Ascot. And hopefully Almacam can deliver in the York Stakes. Be back later this week with our horses to follow for Goodwood. Looking forward to all the action there. Field of Gold set to light it up, of course, in the Sussex Stakes, but some brilliant racing nonetheless elsewhere. Enjoy the action from York on Racing TV on Saturday, and we'll be back soon with another episode of the Formbook. Looking ahead to next week's Qatar Goodwood Festival. And please remember to gamble responsibly.